Ambazonians, fellow Southern Cameroonians, I bring you greetings from the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian State House. The clock is ticking. Today is September the 26th, 5 days to the very historic day, the 1st of October, when we as a people would finally restore our stolen independence. We greet you with a lot of excitement because September the 22nd sent shocking waves into the spine of Yaoundé, into the spine of Mr. Paul Biya, into the spine of all of those who thought this was a joke. The estimate is that more than 4 million of our people across Ambazonia were on every street. They were in every corner, showing support for one common goal, the restoration of our stolen independence. Fellow comrades, fellow compatriots, as we move into these last days, and as we continue to celebrate what many now describe, the rehearsal of the 22nd of September, let us remain vigilant, vigilant, and very vigilant. The enemy is not at sleep. We've heard very disturbing news of more than 5,000 military personnel, security personnel, armed to the gear, marching across the main street in Boya. We've equally had very disturbing news that so many buses of military personnel, armored vehicles, have moved into the northern zone, precisely in Bamenda. That tells us that La République is prepared for war. It tells us that La République does not seem to learn a lesson. That the lesson of the 22nd of September was one that even the deaf and the dumb would get the message clearly. The message that 56 years of servitude, 56 years of being treated as second-class citizens, 56 years of making our children so hopeless and forcing so many of them in the diaspora as economic, political, academic, and business refugees is over. 56 years of destroying our children, who should be the pillars of their various households, but turning them into petty traders, into Okada riders, and many more beggars in their homes is over. If the Yaoundé regime had any clue or a little bit of an ounce of honesty in their systems, the message of the 22nd would have been too loud for this government not to realize that force will never stop the Ambazonian people from being free. We want to use this moment from the Governing Council to salute our people, with all our people, from every village and every town. We saw you in your millions, in every village, in every town, proudly carrying the flag of your country, Ambazonia, proudly singing your national anthem, proudly carrying images of our brothers that remain incarcerated under very terrible conditions, some of them in bunkers in La République du Cameroon. have had enough. Would like to use this opportunity to send a very serious warning to the governor of the Sowdan, Mr. Colonial Administrator. You must know that some of us have traveled and we know what administrators should do. As an administrator, number one, you are a servant of the people. Your number one role is to protect our people, is to give them security. You called Ambazonians dogs. You called Ambazonians dogs. It's a shame. We're asking you to apologize to the Ambazonian people. You've got to do that because that's what any civilized person will do. We take very special offense that while our people are being massacred, maimed, and raped, you've got the audacity to call them dogs. That is a message from the governing council. We know you have got spies on all our social media platforms. You have heard that repeatedly. You have indeed heard that repeatedly. But we are asking for an unconditional apology from you. That statement must be withdrawn. To Mayor Ekema, Ekema, you do not shoot the breast that fed you. September the 22nd was the day for our grandmothers and mothers. It was Takumbang Day. The men, boys, and youths supported them. For you to have taken a gun and gunned down in cold blood one of ours, we want to assure you that you will have your day in court. Justice must be served. Ambazonia will be a country where law and order will take precedence. To the colonial administrator in Manu, who shut down our people, we are told one particular person was shot and thrown in a river. What a shame. What a shame. We would like to address Yaoundé. Would like to address Mr. Paul Biya. Mr. Paul Biya, would like you to remember that guns only have power when the people give you the power to shoot them. But it's been tested around the world that nothing has more power than the collective will of a very determined people. What the Ambazonian people call people power. Mr. President of La République du Cameroon, if you doubted the resolve of the Ambazonian people, September the 22nd was your answer. To all of those in your security cluster, if they doubted the resolve of the Ambazonian people, September the 22nd was indeed your answer. We had hoped that after the massive show of force by our people, rejecting and denouncing your leadership, you would do what is expected of anybody who's got human feeling, not to talk of people feeling. We expected you to reach out to the leaders of the Ambazonian people so that we could talk on the topic you've been running away from, which is that of peaceful separation from this illegal union. Yaoundé, again, remember that you cannot administer people without their consent. You cannot rule the Ambazonian people without their consent. And if you doubted how much they rejected your rulership or your misrule and misleadership, Friday, September the 22nd. What's your answer? It's been very disturbing that in the past few days, you have now recalled military personnel trained to fight terrorists, Boko Haram, in the north. You're now deploying them on peaceful civilians. You're arming them with live bullets, and you've given them the orders to shoot to kill. We must warn you that the international community is watching. We must warn you that international human rights organizations are watching. We must warn you that the Ambazonian struggle is a peaceful resistance. You saw our people in their millions carrying their green leaves, green plants of peace, sending a very strong message to you that the struggle is peaceful. And even though they were very peaceful in all their protests, you still ordered your brutal security forces who shot and killed. The number is going to 12 innocent Southern Cameroonians, innocent Ambazonians. We will ensure, no matter how long it takes, that you have your day in the dock. And to all those military personnel who triggered bullets into the brains, the buttocks of Ambazonians, shooting some while they were running, like the guy who had a bullet on his bombs close to his genitals and he died, the guy who had a bullet on his core and he died. We want to warn you that the governing council has your names. We have the names of every single mad military person in that country who released a live bullet into our people. You will pay the price. You will pay the price, and your commanders will equally pay the price. We want to advise military personnel in that country, security forces, whether you're in the police, gendarme, B, or the military. You must remember that when you trigger a gun onto a peaceful civilian, you do that as a person. You do that as an individual. You will have your day in the dock. And Ambazonians promise you, we will stop at nothing until that happens. We will stop at nothing until that happens. Ambazonians have a right to defend the territory. Ambazonians have a right to defend Mother Ambaland. A slogan of one Ambaland, one Pupil is the one slogan you will never take away from us. A nationality is not borrowed. It is a nationality we came into that illegal union with, and it is that nationality we have taken away. We are sending a word of caution and advice to all of those trigger-happy security personnel. Go back to La République du Cameroon. Go back into your countries. Go back into your houses. Because your family needs you. Your family needs you. We see you as enemy targets, especially when you shoot down at our people. We'd never take that lightly. We're asking our people to take images, take pictures, take videos. All of you, all Southern Cameroonians, we ask you immediately to become citizen journalists. Make sure you do not miss any abuse by this criminal regime. We know that in mile 16 in Boya today, they went breaking down into doors. That's a criminal offense. Abducting our children again. We have told our people to make sure that in their defense, they protect one another. Your whistles must be ever ready. Your phones must be ever ready. Form vigilantes. From the governing council, we're asking every single quarter in every village have leaders. Every village have leaders. Every quarter in every town have leaders. Every town have your leaders. The moment you get a trigger that these forces of evil are back again into this game, send the signals into our networks. Block every road. Block them with old cars, with trees, everything you have. And make sure none of our people are abducted. Make sure no car moves on any road the moment these criminal forces abduct any of our people. We address you from the governing council today in a very angry mood. Very angry mood because this government still thinks it can treat our people with the disdain they've treated us so far. It is indeed sad that for more than 10 months now, the President of La République du Cameroon has not been able to humble himself and address this issue. Talk less of mention the fact that there is an Anglophone problem that must be solved. We are asking security forces to watch out. To every single Ambazonian citizen, we give you the powers to be citizen police from the governing council. We ask that all those that shut down at our people on the 22nd of September must be arrested and taken to palaces. We're glad to know that some of them have been arrested. Yes, justice must be served. It must be served. These forces and the government must know that they cannot defeat our determined people. That as we march on to Boya in 5 days' time, our resolve and determination is at levels never imaginable before, and that no evil can stop that. We want to thank our people so much. Our people in the homeland, we say thank you. Thank you, and thank you so, so much. Thank you so much for your courage. Thank you so much for your determination. Thank you so much as you hope and look forward to celebrating the 1st of October, the day when your stolen independence will be restored. To all families that lost loved ones, we are very saddened. We are so, so saddened. The reason why we asked our people to march with green leaves was because we thought that this government will understand that it is an international right for people or anybody to march. And that when you take up a green leaf, it's a symbol of peace. So if a military personnel has got a bullet in their guns, green leaf means put down your bullets. Many of them did that, and we thank you so much. We're very saddened with the loss of life. The governing council sends heartfelt condolences to the parents and direct relatives of our beloved ones who lost their lives, to members of that community, and to the whole Ambazonian community. You must remember our slogan, all for one, one for all. An injury to one is an injury to all. So these are great losses of Ambazonian people. One Ambazonian killed is too much. We decreed, as it is in our tradition, that a child does not belong to the biological mother. A child belongs to the community, the village, and in this case, the Ambazonian nation. We ask all our people to be in a period of mourning. Give all the support you can give to the immediate bereaved family. We ask all the people in these various constituencies where our people were brutally murdered to give all of them a state burial. Give all of them a state burial, like what happened to Zebizim in Boye County. They deserve it. It was too early for them to die. There's no reason why any of us should die. There's no reason why any of us should not be here on the 1st to celebrate the restoration of our independence. We ask our nation to immediately pay a minute of silence to those who were brutally murdered and the others that we continue to hear in the governing council. Minute of silence, please. May the souls of the departed rest in perfect peace. Amen. I ask all of you watching on Facebook to type hashtag rest in peace, Ambazonian patriots. To La République du Cameroon again. It's very sad that after your camouflage of releasing our people and our leaders, you still drag them to court, and because you never have evidence, you keep postponing the cases. We gave you the 22nd of September as the last day on which every single one of our people must be released. Today is the 26th, 4 days afterwards. Mancho BBC is still in jail. Senator Penn Terrence is still in jail. Comrade Asa Patrick Dango and the 11 apostles of our struggle were locked up in a bunker without water, without lights, without proper toiletry conditions, without electricity, without even a window. They remain in jail. This is a crime against humanity. We ask upon the international community to take note of this very serious crime against the Ambazonian people. We ask upon the international community to continue to put unbearable pressure on this repressive regime in Yaoundé. We ask upon President Donald Trump to put a straight finger down on Yaoundé. We heard your statements at the UN, and we're very grateful as a nation. But indeed, this is a government that meets all the characteristics of the terrible failed states you mentioned at the UN. Those who cut internet from people in order to prevent them from sharing facts about the repressive acts on their people. Those who arrest and beat peaceful civilians as they protest, rightfully so. Those who are characterized by massive election fraud every time they organize elections. Those who are characterized by sending repressive security forces to rape, beat, maim, and kill peaceful civilians, sometimes even when they are not protesting. President Trump, we ask you to put a special eye on Yaoundé. We ask the Security Council to take it one step further. We thank you for the diplomatic support you've been giving us. We know the days ahead are rosy, but we ask you to put unbearable pressure on this criminal cabal in Yaoundé before they unleash the worst case of massacre that will take place in Ambazonia, in southern Cameroon, if we do nothing now. Do not forget, the criminal Minister of Communication and official government spokesperson has called upon Francophones to wage war against the southern Cameroon people. Issa Chiruma, that statement puts you in the hall of, the most shameless of misrule, misleaders that any country has seen in the name of a minister. You go out inside a pupil to kill another pupil. That is a shame. Would like to use this opportunity to address Citizens of French Cameroon, fellow citizens of French Cameroon, we are glad that a lot of you have now taken time to study the Southern Cameroon case. And a lot of you now understand that the Southern Cameroon people are right. Most of you did not know. 22nd made you to know that. Many of you have been acting as intelligence on behalf of the governing council, ensuring that we know every move, every criminal and evil move that this government plans to do before they get into it. Citizens of French Cameroon, fellow Francophones, as Ambazonians and Southern Cameroonians, we would like you to know that we do not have a problem with you. We'd like you to know that most of you have children, some of them as young as 5, 8, 10 years. These are innocent human beings. These have never touched a fly. These do not even know what is happening in their nation. How can Ambazonians be against people like that? To many of you, you live in abject poverty. Many of you have been exiled from that country because of the same repressive measures. Many of you live in that country as slaves. You can't get jobs because you don't come from a particular tribe or you do not bear particular names. We ask upon you not to support this criminal cabal in Yaoundé. We ask you to remember that our problem is historic. It's just, it's true, and it's very legitimate. It is a problem against the two successive governments that have ruled Cameroon, the government of President Amadou Ahidjo and the government of Mr. Paul Biya. These two governments have unfortunately been pawns, agents of their principals in Europe. They have milked the country dry for their principles. So our strife is for them to correct the wrongs of history. The struggle of the Southern Cameroon people is not against the police, not against the bees, not against the gendarmes, not against the army, not against an ordinary Francophone. It's against Mr. Paul Biya, his agents and surrogates who continue to rape, kill, and maim our people. We ask upon all Francophones not to support the diabolic plans to bring genocide in our country. We ask upon Francophones to ensure that while you protect every single Ambazonian citizen living in your country, we assure you that Ambazonians, as civilized as we are, will protect all your people in our country. This war, this strife, this struggle will never be a struggle for Ambazonians against Francophones. Mark that. The people that this government have now deployed to go and kill our people are not ordinary French Cameroonians. They're military personnel. And we know many of these military personnel have been forced to get into Ambazonia. They know the truth, and they will never leave bullets against our people. We again caution every member of the military, police, gendarmes, and the B who have been deployed in Ambazonia. Two things you can do. Exercise complete neutrality by making sure your guns never trigger, or just go home, because that's the safest thing to do. I turn the attention of the Governing Council now to members of Parliament. We want to celebrate you, Honorable Mbandam. Your people came to you in their thousands, and as a true Democrat, you yielded to their demand, and their demand was come back home. You led the way of true patriotism. by answering the call that Ambazonian people have been making weeks after weeks and months after months. And after you answered the call, 6 other parliamentarians have followed suit. Would like to congratulate the 6 parliamentarians from the SDF that have resigned from this evil government and listened not only to their hearts, but to the call of the people that deployed them into parliament, who said you must come back home. We want to thank the lone CPDM parliamentarian or 2 who have so far resigned. We celebrate you, you've done the right thing. Remember that the parliamentarian is the representative of the people. And we know that some of you, like some of these in Yaoundé, thought this was a WhatsApp war. The moment you saw your people come out in numbers, you knew indeed that the governing council has only been bestowed powers and the voice to speak on behalf of our determined people. You yielded to the call and you came back home. We want to salute every single one of you, fellow members of parliament, who have done the right thing. You did the right thing. You did the right thing. You did the right thing. Because history will hold all of these other parliamentarians who missed the 7 p.m. deadline we'd given them on Sunday. We'd ask that all of you, by 7 p.m. Sunday, very latest, resign from that parliament. Parliamentarians from the SDF party and parliamentarians from the CPDM. Remember that when we see you, we see Ambazonians. You must remember that. We really do not care about your parties at this stage. When we see you as a parliamentarian, we see you as an Ambazonian. We see you as somebody that Ambazonians have deployed into parliament to go and protect their interests. And we are saying that we have no more business with that parliament. So our question to all these other 29 parliamentarians who are still in Yaoundé, who are still dining with the devil, do you know the blood of all our people were slain? Do you know their blood is on your head? Do you know their blood is on your head? Have you read the letter from our compatriot in jail today? Our leaders and all our people who remain kidnapped by this criminal cabal. They have sent a warning to you. Any of them dies, their blood is on your head. From the governing council, we are asking you to look deep in your conscience, whether you're in the CPDM or SDF. We're asking you, we're appealing to your conscience to come back home. The one thing we want is safety for all our parliamentarians. And you must know there's no safer place than resigning and joining your people. We are, by this announcement, giving all parliamentarians a last date. We're appealing to all of you. We're asking you to remember the suffering of the 8 million strong masses of our people. Remember suffering over the last 56 years. Remember people massacred, daily raped and maimed as we strive to free our nation. Remember our brothers who were kidnapped for no just cause. Justice Aya, Barrister Bala, Dr. Fontaine, and all the others, and held up for almost 10 months without trial and being released without an apology. Remember Mancho BBC, who always stood up to fight for justice. Pen Terrence, Comrade Asa Patrick Dango, and the many others in jail. Remember the 12 of our people who were slaughtered in cold blood on the 22nd of February during the peaceful protest. Remember our poor sister in Old Town, Gum, who was shot in the leg by a grenade. Look in your conscience, honorable members of parliament. Come back home. Come back home so that on the 1st, you can convert in Boya and show us the way. Your stay in La Republique is overdue. For all of you who have not resigned, as at this moment under the sound of my voice, you are betrayers to those that have already resigned. You are giving La Republique a license to kidnap and kill these honorable members of parliament that have resigned. As Ambazonians, we beg you. You are our fathers and mothers. You come from amongst us. It is our responsibility to protect you. We ask you to come back home because the Ambazonians have left La Republique. You cannot be there representing yourself. It is not good, and it's very sad. It's barely 5 days to the restoration of our independence. We want to remind you parliamentarians who have traveled that Cameroon is a nightmare. La Republique is a nightmare. Come back home so that we can build that great nation His Excellency Sisikwa Octaves had presented to our people. Let's build that great nation again, where electricity and water, basic utilities including telephony, will not only be cheap, they will be accessible to almost all our people. So that we can have a nation where our mothers will stop drinking terrible water from streams in the different villages, where we can ensure that as government, as the Ministry or Department of Infrastructure, every single quarter in our village will have pipe-borne water to serve our people. We'll have medical facilities close to our people. We'll have proper schools equipped with technology, with proper teachers and lecturers, so that we grow a nation of empowered people, people who can contribute to nation building as professionals, so that we stop this cycle of, underemployment, where people go and learn and become master's degree holders and PhD holders, and only end up being taxi drivers and farmers. Let's stop this cycle of hopelessness that La Republique has plunged our people in for over 56 years. You've got the will and power to do that. I'm going to remind some of you a discussion I had with His Excellency Comrade John Frondi. That was in December 2016. I'd asked the leader of the SDF party, who was a father to me, I said, Comrade John Frondi, one of the elder statesmen in our nation, why do you not call the parliamentarians of your party to resign? He said something wonderful. He said, Milton, do not forget that parliamentarians are elected by the people, and they have a free will and a free voice. I have not heard any parliamentarian from resigning. If parliamentarians want to resign, it is in their rightful place to do that. So we are calling on all parliamentarians, please come back home. Come back home so that this cycle of killing our people can stop. We hear that Cavalier Jibril, the man who has been Speaker of the La Republique, House of Assembly now for almost 3 or more decades, has called for an emergency meeting with all parliamentarians. We ask all parliamentarians of Ambazonian extraction, do not attend the meeting, send your resignation letters. Do it, because that is the right thing to do. Otherwise, the blood of all our people that continue to be murdered will be on your head. We do this because it's the right thing to do. The one thing we do not fear is death. The one thing we fear to disappoint the most is our people. Let it be known that we will never do anything. We will never disappoint our people. The resolve of our people is too strong for anybody to stand against them. When the parliamentarians had moved out of the Enugu House of Assembly in 1954, they had not seen the kind of protest we saw on September 22nd. In fact, that has never been done anywhere on the African continent. So if our parliamentarians cannot see this, I don't know what else they're waiting for. We want to remind our parliamentarians that in law, there's something called precedence. The moment our parliamentarians moved out of Enugu, we became a state. We started ruling ourselves, what we call self-rule. We're again telling our parliamentarians that the moment all of you in the SDF and CPDM leave that house in Yaoundé, the Ambazonian people will complete the process of self-rule. We will take that message to the United Nations as they have requested. We will be given a permanent position as the newest member of the United Nations. We will be given a permanent position as the newest member of the African Union, because the only umbilical cord that links Ambazonia and Yaoundé are these parliamentarians that have still not resigned. Fellow presidents, fellow members of parliament, leave that house in Yaoundé and come back home in Boya. Come back home, let's build Boya together. You can see that I've spent time talking to you because our hearts are so deep, they're bleeding, and we can't understand what you are waiting for. It's 5 days to Restoration Day. You've got 2 days to come back home. Come back home so that Yaoundé can finally get the message that the deploying of military personnel in our land, when we've all rejected Yaoundé, is invasion. That the occupier can understand that the annexist tendencies have indeed come to an end. You hold that one key. We ask your people, members in the different constituencies where your members of parliament have not come back home. We ask you to call them to come back home. It's 48 hours from now. Call them to come back home. We want to thank all of you who have continued to do a wonderful job towards the restoration of our nationhood. We ask all of you to equally ask the old people, any of our people who lived in the 40s and 50s and 60s, most of them your mothers, fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers. Ask them how Ambazonia was then. Ask them how the Southern Cameroons was then. I had a call from a father precisely in Santa today. He said, "Courage, my son. I would like to share something with you." He said, in their days, there was PWD Bamenda and PWD Kumba. And for the young people of today, PWD stands for Public Works Department. That in March precisely, these two PWD offices or ministries or departments will send caterpillars, because they had lots of equipment, onto all roads in all villages, preparing them against the rainy season. And that by the time the rains would come, our roads would be in such a perfect condition that it will be very hard to have any gallop on any of our roads. In Warakan, we had the Southern Cameroons radio, the national radio station, that the frequency was so strong that when you listen to it in the United States and Britain, in South Africa, it felt like you're listening to it or listening to a station which was just in front of your house. He talked about our telephone services that were in Seoul. He talked about the Yoko power station that powered so much of our country. He talked about the Tico International Airport, on which so many heads of states landed as they came into the Southern Cameroons to do business with our people. He said for him, that is why he is fighting. That when he sees the fight of today, he reflects on the days of the Southern Cameroon nation when we had self-rule, and he laments what La Republic has put us through. To citizens of our land, remember that we've asked for all of your communities to endorse their leaders. Endorse those that will mobilize you on the 1st of October. Endorse those that will rally and take you to those positions where we will declare the restoration of our independence. Endorse these ones, for these will be the first footlight soldiers of our revolution. Protect them from this criminal cabal. The one thing we promise you is that as we declared the restoration of our independence on the 1st, we will immediately get into work. The head of our Independence Day program will be coming to you live very soon with a very detailed program on how we will be celebrating our independence or the restoration of our independence, where that would happen and what will take place. This message goes particularly to our compatriots in the homeland. To all our compatriots in the diaspora, we expect all of you to rent a very big hall that can host thousands of our people, invite key speakers, all traditional dances in your different communities, and on that night, listen to powerful presentations, enjoy the celebration with the different traditional dances from our different villages, enjoy the dances from our different musicians, especially from the Ambazonian extraction, and at the appointed hour, the leader of our revolution and our nation, His Excellency Sisiku, will then read the restoration of our independence speech, the one speech that the world is awaiting, the one speech that the UN, the AU is awaiting, the one speech that all friends of Ambazonia are awaiting. Fellow citizens of Ambazonia, the clock is ticking. The power is in your hands. This is truly the time of pupil power. September the 22nd was rehearsal day. Remember again that our chiefs and funds palaces are our administrative headquarters as we speak. We ask all of you, we need counseling, we have problems, or we need the wisdom of the leaders chosen by God during these trying times to go to our chiefs and funds. We know in the Ambazonian tradition that chiefs and funds are the voice of the people. 2nd of September, we withdrew them from Yaoundé. They are now all Ambazonian leaders. We ask all our chiefs and funds to mobilize our people, because the 1st will see the mother of all gatherings, the mother of all gatherings in all our palaces. Yes, for all of you in all quarters, your leaders will move into all our palaces, and from the palaces, you will celebrate the restoration of our independence and get ready to move into a nation which will ensure that potholes become a thing of the past. You drive on roads kilometers upon kilometers and there will be no potholes. You will send your children to school to get education, that when they get out of school, our economy will be prepared in such a way that they will be absorbed, they'll be able to grow their own families, they'll be able to turn back and support their communities, support their parents, and support the nation Ambazonia. Ambazonia will be milk and honey. We equally promise our people that Ambazonia will be a land ruled by strong institutions. We will never have a position or a situation where you have governors or divisional officers who abuse power. There will be common administrators given the instruments of powers and being held accountable every time they abuse them. We promise you that we will have a country where there will be greater decentralization, where in every county there will be a parliament. In that parliament, your leaders will present their plans to you, take orders from you to implement those plans. They'll come back to you to explain how far they have implemented the plans and why they had challenges, and what they would do to ensure that those challenges do not repeat themselves. And for any leaders who do not deliver, we will replicate the wonderful democratic elections of 1959 by ensuring that the leaders are replaced with leaders that can serve our people and give them better services. We have promised you that this rule will not only be at the county level. Whoever becomes the interim head of state, president, whoever becomes ministers, whoever becomes the House Speaker of the Ambazonian Parliament or House of Chiefs, these will be accountable to members at the different levels. They will come there at least 2 to 4 times every year, and that includes the President of our Republic. Present the platform to our people, directly from the representatives of our people, and being held accountable. And most of this will be televised live. A country of strong institutions and not strong people. We will never allow a country again where the head of state is equally head of the judiciary. There will be a head of the judiciary. If people are to be released from jail or from their kidnapping places, those pronouncements will be met by the head of our judiciary. When you send bills to Parliament, we will never have a situation again where you must get authority from the president of that country. Bills will be presented on the floor. They will be debated on the floor, and we will cease from getting parliamentarians who paid parliamentary salaries and allowances to go and sleep. That will never happen in Ambazonia. So we promise you a country full of liberties and freedoms, full of democratic practices, full of accountability. As we move to Boya, we tell our people to remain very hopeful again. This is a time when the power will be indeed in the hands of the people and not in the hands of few people. This will be a time when no group of people will ever be allowed again to rape our country. A country where corruption will never be allowed to thrive again. It's very sad in La Republique that patronage is the order of the day. That will not happen in Ambazonia again. We will create a country where we will be taught our own history, so that we know where we come from. We will name roads, our airports, our stadiums, after the great people who fought for. We will not use colonial names from Europe to name our streets and our airports. All of these will be things of the past. Fellow Ambazonians, fellow Southern Cameroonians, we salute your courage again from the Governing Council. We thank you so much as you prepare towards this great day, the 1st of October. We ask all our citizens in Ambazonia on Thursday, the 28th of September, to come out in your numbers in every quarter, every village, every town. Come out in your numbers and clean all our streets. Make sure the littering is all cleared away. Let's do a Keep Ambazonia Clean Day on Thursday, the 28th of September 2017, in preparation for the 1st of October, with its activities beginning, or actually climaxing 30th of September. We ask all funds and chiefs and leaders in the different towns to take charge of this. And as I close, a very strong message to you again. We send a very strong message to you. It is an international crime for you to hold people without crimes. For so many months and you're not able to charge them, as you've been told by the UN and the AU. We ask you to release Mancho, release Senator Pentorrance, release Comrade Asa Patrick Dango and all our people that remain held up in your jails and hideouts immediately and unconditionally. We ask to produce a list of those that you still have in your keeping. We equally ask upon you to publish a list of those that have either died or been killed by your forces. That should be the first step of redress. Publish that to the international community with an apology on a round table in a neutral country with the United Nations as the umpire, Britain, France, Nigeria as key witnesses to that meeting, and all other friendly countries and international bodies that we will invite. We ask you to investigate the killings, investigate the maimings, and investigate the rapes. It is sad that over 10 months, not even one member of your security forces has been tried for the arson perpetrated on our people. We ask the international community to take note of that. We ask you to withdraw the forces of occupation in our land. We want specifically to note that the blood of every single Ambazonian killed is on your head. And that as we move forward to the 1st of October, we already have heard from our intelligence that you passed orders for our people to be massacred. You are preparing for a genocide. We send a warning to you from the Ambazonian Governing Council State House. We equally ask the international community to take note of that. We ask all security forces to show restraint, because it will be a terrible thing for you to obey the orders of a government that continues to abuse even your own people and you yourself. We ask all our people vigilant, to be citizen journalists. Ensure you immediately send images of all crimes perpetrated by this government. You do that, delete images from your phone so that you can stay safe. We ask our people to ensure that all the people have SCBC installed in their phones and devices and their homes, because this is the voice of the Ambazonian people, and this is the one thing that La Republic fears so much. Our intelligence tells us that Issa Chiruma is doing everything, that he is going to shut down SCBC at all costs this week. We assure our people that they have no amount of billions can stop this. We assure them that the voice of our people can never be stopped. SCBC is here to stay, and it will go nowhere. We ask our grandmothers, the commanders-in-chiefs in our different villages and towns, our mothers, the generals, to take charge of transferring wisdom to our wives, daughters, sons, husbands, especially at this hour. The principle of our struggle is non-violence. Our case is too resolute. Our case is too strong. Our case is so solid that Ambazonians ready to war to free themselves. And we promise our people we will free you. We, however, ask all our people to take note that self-defense is one of Kakuf that the Governing Council respects a lot. We need to ensure that the Department of Defense of Ambazonia is there to prepare the way for October 1st, to protect our people, and to ensure that our people protect themselves. Would like people to note that self-defense is an inalienable right. When you are attacked by brutes, defend yourself by all means possible. Defend yourself by all means possible. We call upon the whistles and use the community networks to ensure that none of our people are kidnapped again. We ask our people to remain peaceful while they do that. But make sure you defend yourself at all costs. If somebody points a gun and is shooting at our people, by international law, we cannot be looking. So self-defense means defend yourself at all costs. While our movement remains very peaceful, we want your education. Stop the abductions. Stop the kidnapping. We remind you again to take away your repressive and brutal forces that have raped too many and killed too many. We ask you to do that immediately and do what civilized nations would do. Get to the negotiation table. Ambazonians have had enough. No amount of repression will stop us. To remember that Amazonia from now on, or as at the last time the leader of our revolution spoke to us going forward, will be ruled by our chiefs and pawns until further notice. Defy all colonial administrators. We no longer have governors, divisional officers, senior divisional officers. We no longer have gendarmes, military, the army, the police from La République du Cameroon. They are no longer administrators. That is an official cabinet from the governing council. I ask all our people to respect it. The governing council has asked all our people to stop with immediate effect from paying any taxes, paying water bills, paying electricity bills, to any collectors from La République du Cameroon. On the 1st of October, when we declare a restoration and finally cut that umbilical cord that linked our two nations, we will pronounce in very specific terms what we will do with the international parties or partners to ensure that the services our people must get, they get while paying taxes to the Southern Cameroon government. Let it be known that this is the season the hour God has ordained. And let it be known that the most powerful weapon of freedom is unity. And that the unity we've demonstrated so far is what brought about the ballistic results we saw and experienced. We ask our people to stay strong and stay united. We ask all frontline leaders who continue to go astray, please come back home. Do take note that our people have given complete power to the governing council. Let's desist from sending people. The old man who called me today asked me to tell. He called specific names, but for the respect I've got for you and for your followers, we ask you to desist from sending destructive messages, because all that would do is give ammunition to our oppressors, to our colonizers, our occupiers. Come back home. This is not yet time for politics. This is not yet time for competition. This is a time when the Ambazonian nation must cooperate and act like one man, one Amba, one people. We put down this Goliath. And of course, on the 1st of October, we will do that gigantically, powerfully, and unthinkable by Yahweh in the world. And when the world sees this, they will send a straight message to Yahweh, it is over. Let it be known we rely on our people. Let it be known it is our. This is the People's Revolution. The chairman of our revolution has been very clear to say that His Excellency Octaves. We ask all our people to remain determined, remain resilient. We ask all our leaders to come back home. Let's unite for the sake of our people. Let's unite for the sake of our struggle. Let's unite for the sake of the Mattias of this unite for the sake of the families that have lost loved ones. And we promise you that in unity, we will all move to Boya as one people, one power, one amber land, one love, and we will declare our land free, and it will never be again occupied, never, never, not in your lifetime and not in my lifetime. I want to thank all viewers for listening. God bless you. May God bless Ambazonia. Long live the Southern Cameroons. Long live Ambazonia. Long live our determined people. God bless you. We unfortunately will not be taking calls tonight because our lines have a problem. Thank you.
Our mothers are crying. Our mothers are crying. Our mothers in Southern Cameroon, Manpower, they are crying. That we must be free. We are free, Mama. Your tears cannot go in vain. You are free, Southern Cameroon. Our mothers are crying. United Nations, see us crying. United Nations, do something. For how long shall we keep crying? United Nations, help. United Nations, help. We are fighting, and we think our fight is